What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Big Guilty Cigars podcast. Today, I'm super excited. So I'm hoping that you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I'm going to. I have Hector Alfonso from Espinosa Cigars. He is the master blender. So I am super excited, and I'm gonna let Hector go and give you guys an introduction of himself and his background. So this way you guys can understand who he is.
Well, Hector Alfonso, I've been with Espinosa now for 11 years. I am the director of operations. I'm responsible for the blending, as well as, all the little ancillary things that happen at a cigar manufacturer, ordering product, making sure we're ready for the show, making sure that we have inventory, working on new product ideas, what flavor profiles we're looking for, any new products we're doing. So, like I said, I've been with them 11 years. We are still a small. I don't know if small is the right word anymore. I know
I don't think you can consider yourself small anymore.
All right, but we're a boutique. I still consider us a boutique company. I mean, we're not making 10 million cigars a year, but we're still in that boutique market. We've had an incredible run the last couple of years. The Espinosa Cigar starts with Eric Espinosa, who has been in the industry now almost 23 years. He had a brand company with his old partner called EO. And in January of 2012, that company dissolved and he starts his own company. And the idea was just, the cigar, I don't think we weren't even thinking that there would be a boom like there is, like there's been in the last couple of years. It was just a matter of, getting back in the cigar industry for him and using the relationships and the acquaintances that he's made over his years and, launching a brand and establishing a brand again, because, a lot of guys don't get that chance to reestablish a brand. And when reestablishing a brand, try to, correct any errors you might have made on the way in. But that was not the case in this company. This is his idea was to bring his son on and bring me on. And, it was just the three of us. And we were behind the eight ball. Our company started in February. The show was in July. So in a couple of months, we had to put together, we had to put a brand together, and have a direction on what we were going to do. While still trying to acquire some of his old brands that he had before the dissolution. But it's been great. I mean, listen, like I said, we're still small. As far as I'm concerned, we're still small. We're not making 100 million cigars a year. But we have a nice amount of fanfare. We have a really loyal following. Our cigars every year end up on so many of the media lists for, top cigar of the year, cigar, finalists. And while all of these cigar media sites are worthy of their accolades, are all equally worthy. Print media we've been very lucky with the print media. 5 years and five in the last, in 11 years, we've had 5 top 25s in Cigar Aficionado, which is, kind of a big deal. When you think of Cigar Aficionado, you think of established cigar, established lines and established core lines. It's a little older school, and yeah, there we are. And like I said earlier, we're very happy, what's happened in the last year and a half. We partnered with Guy Fieri, and collaborated for the knuckle sandwich cigar that came out last year in January, and that's just taken us to the next level. There have been phases in this company. I mean, our first couple of years, it was just bearing down and, trying to bite the bullet and, move on and trying to generate that steam. And then in 2015, we launched a cigar called the Laranja Reserva. And that was a Habano, but from a Brazilian Habano with just a very unique flavor. And it was our first benchmark cigar. All of a sudden, boom. Hey, look, hey, who are these guys? Hey, that cigar hit the top 25. And then, our next big step came when we launched the gateway cigar. We had a Connecticut cigar called the Crema. And the Crema has really kind of opened up our market a little bit more. We were no longer just catering to the pepper, the guys who wanted a high spice and a lot of strength in the cigar. They wanted something a little more little more approachable. So that came about, and I think this last step now has been this thing that happened with Knuckle Sandwich last year. I mean, that we came out of the gate hot with that cigar. I mean, we're talking about having two guys collaborate who are kind of peas in a pod, both kind of alpha dogs, both kind of, guys with very big personalities who like what they're talking and have, the like cigars, and, people are drawn to them. So just to give you an example, when you're talking about a company of our size, we launched this knuckle sandwich with two lines, just your basic lines. And going back just a little bit, if I can, this is a chance yet again to start something from the beginning, making sure that we check all the boxes, that we do it perfectly, because we had the experience from when his experience prior to Espinosa, his experience during Espinosa, now a chance to launch with Guy Fieri. We launched two lines. We launched Habano and Maduro, and boom, out of the gate, people were just crazy about a cigar. And I'm a cigar smoker, and I'm a nerd, and I'm a consumer. It's hard for me to get on board about a cigar that hasn't yet come out. I mean, but the people were clamoring for this cigar sight unseen. I mean, listen, January 2nd and 3rd, Eric and Guy got together on a 2-day road trip where they hit maybe 12 to 15 shops in South Florida, which is Dade, Palm Beach, and Miami. Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. They hit those 15 shops. They had maybe 100 cigars to show. They handed out some to some of the guys, the shop owners, and the orders were out of their mind. This cigar exploded out of the gate. And I don't want to say that we've been playing catch up, but we kind of have been. It's just, right now we are the wave with the knuckle sandwich is out of its mind. It's just crazy. And this is an industry where some lines come up, they show up on the scene and they're gone in 18 months. And this wave is not even starting to diminish. It's just really moving forward. And I think that's something you can attribute to, Eric's his positivity, his, the leadership of the company, plus Guy, who is not just a celebrity, because there are a lot of celebrities who tried to make cigars.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who smokes cigars. This is a guy who who wears his knuckle sandwich t-shirt when he's doing his TV shows, when he's doing his commercials. He's at the NBA All-Star game, he's got a cigar in his mouth. He's at the Raiders game, he's got a cigar in his mouth. He's talking cigars. He is bringing cigars to the mainstream. And that is something that can not only help us, Espinosa, as a company, but help the industry, because we're an industry that we're constantly under attack by people who don't know what tobacco is. They just know that it's bad for them because they've been told tobacco is bad. So they've lumped us and cigarettes and vape and pipe and put us all in this one box. And, and we're all bad. And here's a guy that's helped, kind of break, trying to break those bonds a little bit. Yep. And, it's been let me tell you something. I've been with him now 11 years. I retired early from the police department to go work full-time. I was working part-time with him for the first 9 years, but I retired early to go work because I knew what we had, what was coming was going to be out of his mind, So that's where we're at, man. I mean, it's not super exciting, but it's a really good story. And, he started with nothing. Had 800 square feet. We had an 800 square foot warehouse. It was me, him, and his son, and we were staring at each other for weeks. And then finally, we got some product in, and and then the rest is just been a really, really good story.
So my first question is, and people go back and forth on this in my cigar group, in the Laranja, people taste orange. Is there some kind of orange zest?
All right. What happens is the first guy who made Laranja was drinking Sunny Delight that day. And then he spilled a little Sunny Delight on his cigars. Listen, man, there is no orange in that cigar. Well, there is no orange in that cigar. But the orange that you taste in that cigar is the power of persuasion. It's an orange footband.
Yeah.
It's an orange tinted wrapper. The wrapper has a slight orange hue to it. Yep. The band is orange. The name is orange in Portuguese. Mm-hmm. And the mind. Listen, one of the things I learned when I was during my previous career, I did a lot of stuff on body language, and the body doesn't lie, yep. And the body doesn't want to lie, and the body doesn't want to be lied to. Mm-hmm. And in the body, your eyes see orange, and you see orange, and you see orange, and all of a sudden you start to smell orange. And at first, it used to drive me insane. They go, hey, the orange taste in this is incredible. And I don't do a lot of events, like I told you, because I'm not that personable. Because after a while, the first time I'll laugh, and by the third time I'm like, what the? Can we curse on here, by the way?
Of course.
Okay, but like the first time, I got to make sure. The first time I'm like, oh, no, it's funny. The second time I'm like, is he serious? And the third time, what the fuck's wrong with you? But you have to. I tell her, I go, what? He goes, bro, if they say it tastes, tell them it's orange, man. Just tell them it's orange. Tell them what they want to hear. And and I said, well, yeah, sure, why not? It was Sunny Delight, and there's a couple that are grapefruit, and one tastes like blood orange, but the orange taste that you're getting is just the visualization of the colors in the cigar, and the colors in the band, and the way of the box and the dressing, and you taste orange. There is no citric acid, any spray, any flavoring, any Sunny Delight, any tang. There ain't none of that in these cigars. It's just tobacco. But listen. If in your mind you taste orange, and that you like that, and it's going to make you buy Laranja, go. It's got a lot of orange in it. All right. It's got a lot of orange.
Yeah. So now, so since we got that out the way, let's go back to
just like Murcielago doesn't have any bat in it. People are asking me. Right.
Oh yeah. I would tell you this band for the Murcielago is probably it's creative as I'm gonna get into that because it's marketing genius, honestly. But I want to go back to first when you first started blending cigars and who taught you how to blend cigars.
Well, the blending story is pretty funny because I'm a cigar smoker. I've been a cigar smoker for years. I've always considered myself to have a very good palate, and not because I was told I had a good palate or I said I had a good palate. Like so many guys will tell you, I have a great palate. Why do you say that? Well, because I say so. No, I have a good palate because people bring me cigars all the time and go, hey man, what do you taste here? What's in, and it's kind of a parlor trick that I don't want you to think it's a parlor trick, but I know guys in the industry who are just coming up or new brands, and they'll bring you a cigar. Hey man, can you guess what's in this? I'm not a fucking monkey. I can't tell you what's in it. I'm not a, what do you want from me? I'm not a Pavlovian dog or something like that. Oh, but anyway, I digress. I think I've had a good palate, and I've always smoked. Unbeknownst to myself, I didn't really hang out in stores until maybe 12, 15 years ago or so. I smoked brands that were very, very well received.
Yeah.
So I guess obviously I was smoking the right stuff, and I'd buy everything. I'd go into a shop, what's new? Oh, I don't like that. I like this. I like that. And retailers have gotten a lot better in the last 15 years, I think. When I go into a shop, I go, what do you got new? That stuff there on the ground. On the ground. The guy, I got some boxes on the ground. Can you? Yeah. So I went through all that. So I had an idea of what I liked. So when I go with Eric to Nicaragua for the first time, he sees that he trusts, he says, well, I like your palate. It's not the same as his. We don't have the same palate, which is good because you don't want three guys on a panel deciding for a cigar and all of them like the same kind of cigar. You got to have some preferences. Like I don't smoke a lot of Connecticut. Jack smokes a lot of Connecticut. Eric does not smoke a lot of Connecticut. I like dark wrap. I love dark wrap. Not just dark Maduro Habanos. I'm talking about Mexicans and dark Sumatras and broadly. I like dark wrapper. Eric's not a big dark wrapper guy. So he sees that I really have kind of a knack for it. So we work on that first blend and we come back and I'm just constantly tinkering with, learning. I'm learning about cigars. I really am. At this point, I'm still learning. So we get a chance to do a cigar for Smoke Inn. Smoke Inn is a big store down here in South Florida.
Owned by Abe.
Abe store. So Abe gives us a first chance. He gives Espinosa a chance to do his first exclusive. So Eric tells me, hey, I need you. Can you go to Nicaragua in November? I said, yeah, when are we going? He goes, no, I want you to go. I said, well, aren't you going to go? And he goes, listen, you seem to know what you're doing. You know what I like. Go down there, work with Willie, work with Amica, work with Nick Malello at the time, who was still with Drew Estate, pick their brains, get an idea of what's going on down there. Oh, my dog's acting like a fool. All right. Okay, so we I go down there and I start working on some working on some blends, and and I had an idea of what he wanted. I know what he likes. He likes that high spice note, not necessarily too heavy, but a cigar that when you retrohale it, it stings your nostrils a little bit, and it waters your mouth a little bit. So I worked on some blends, and then as time went on and as we progressed, I started to not just know the stuff he liked, but I started to get my own signature of what I liked. And obviously, not just I like, it's got to be something that I like, and Eric's okay with it, and and it fits in the portfolio, So it came about that way, luck, complete confidence on his part to let me go out and do what I have to do. And and there was a lot of trial error. People tell me all the time, man, I love your cigars. Everything you do is a hit. And I'm like, well, hold on there. I have a humidor. I have maybe, it's been 11, 12 years now. So I probably have maybe 50 or 60 left of some of the first cigars I made in the first couple of years that were just god awful terrible. Just dog ruckus, just complete monkey shit, just the worst shit you've ever tasted. And every once in a while I'll grab one and I'll smoke it to remind myself that, yeah, this is where you started, bro. This was you can't, this is what you started with, and as we progressed as a company, so did our accessibility of better tobacco. Our relationship with AJ opened up, talking about a kid in a candy store, I get to, I go to work on my first blend there, which is Laranjo Oscuro. And I remember, and it's the right thing to do when you're going to go work at another guy's factory. Eric says, don't forget to ask AJ to help you, to help you work on the blend. And I told AJ, hey, look, I'm going to be here Wednesday. I want to work on a blend. And he goes, well, I'll be in the States Wednesday. What do you want to do? I said, I'm looking to do this and this. He goes, just go back there and do it. He picks up the phone and he calls the guy in the back. And Gordo is a term of endearment. I'm a heavy set guy, so it's calling me fat boy, but it's a heavy set. It's a term of endearment. Hey, Gordo's coming tomorrow. Give him whatever the fuck he wants. And so when I go back there, and I don't know if you've got a chance to go to any of these factories, AJ is just full of these beautiful tobaccos. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna have a good time here. We're gonna start making some stuff here, and it just became that. I have a baseline of what I like, but it's not just times what I like, it's what we're looking to do. What is the project? When we went to go make the Connecticut's that I made 5 that year. I made 5 blends, and 4 of them became production cigars for us and then for other companies. I can't go in there and make a powerhouse Connecticut. I'm looking to make a Connecticut that's accessible. So I have to learn, every time you go in there, you learn, this is what I'm looking for. And, when I talk about the guys that I really admire them and their work and what they've done, Willie Herrera was a really good friend of mine. And I'm a big fan of the stuff that he does, and the stuff that he's done with, not necessarily Drew Estate, but the stuff that he's done with Herrera Steli. My favorite cigar last year was the Undercrown 10 anniversary, which is not really in my wheelhouse, but I just really love the way that cigar was made. I'm not a brand owner. I am part of a company, a part of a very good company. And when you go to the show and you see people start to split off in their subdivisions, I gravitate towards the guys that blend cigars, because it's a matter of listening and trying to pick their brain and hear what they did and what they did that didn't work and what they were going for and stuff like that. So, and to this day, I'm still a fanboy. I'll give you a perfect example. About 3 months ago, actually last year, Jack introduces me to Ernie, to Ernesto Perez Carrillo.
Wow.
So, I know where Ernesto Perez Carrillo is. I've seen him 100 times, but I've never been formally introduced to him. So when he goes, Ernie, I want you to meet Hector Alfonso. He's our blender. He goes, I'm familiar with him. So I'm like, well, right away, I'm like, I'm just trying to cover. I got some of that jock wood, some of that man crush wood.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, you don't say. Yeah. He goes, yeah, man, why don't we get together when I'm in Miami and we'll have a cigar? So I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, get my number. So he starts the beginning of what's going to be eventually going to be a restraining order. He gives me his phone number. So, I text him and he texts me back. And then a couple of months later, we're at the Big Smoke in Miami. I see him again and he walks up to me. He goes, Hector, I haven't forgotten about you. Let's get together in 2 weeks. So I'm like, okay. So I get together and I go to his place and I smoke with him for 3 hours. And it was just me like, how did you do this? And how did you do that? And how did you get this? And how did you work with this? And this is a guy that I don't interject when he's talking. This guy's got Cigar of the Year awards up his ass, falling out of his pockets. All right. And he's giving me the time of day and talking to me about what he did and his struggle and his time and what he tried that didn't work and what he tried that worked. Listen, there are a whole bunch of small companies like ourselves. I mean, I don't want to say small, but I mean companies of our size that I respect the guys who make their cigars. I'm a big fan of Steve Saka. I'm a big fan of Skip Martin from Roman Craft. I'm a big fan of James Brown from Blackworks. I'm a big fan of I said, like, of Willie. And I'm sure that I'm going to forget somebody and I shouldn't, but I like guys who talk tobacco because I can't talk sales. Sales is not my strong point. If you're depending on me to sell cigars, we're gonna have shit. We got to have a secondary business. We're gonna have to sell mangoes or he'll do home invasions or some shit because it's not really my strong point. Now, the making of cigars and all that stuff, I'm all in on that. And I really been lucky enough that I've made friendships with these guys. And when I go to Nicaragua, they open their doors to me and we talk cigars and we talk about and we just talk about the industry. And it's not like police work because there is some kind of brethren to it. There is some kind of solidarity to it, and I really enjoy it.
Well,
So, I mean, I hope I answered your question. I took you on the long route there, but
it's fine. I was like, like when I talk to, because Sanj is he's very good friends with Ernie. So, and the one thing that they always say is he's forgotten more about tobacco than you'll probably learn in the next 10 years.
I sat with Jose Blanco. Jose Blanco, I can literally tell you, has forgotten more about tobacco than I'll ever know. And you like hearing the stories from these guys, and you like not only that, them recognizing, without you asking for it, they're going, hey, I had that cigar that you made. I really like that. And I like being around guys that you can give them a cigar and that you don't have to play that trick like I've done with some guys in the past. I'll give them a cigar that I know is not good. Hey, try that. Oh, this is great. That's not good.
Yeah.
But these guys go, yeah, no, this is something missing here. I know there's something wrong. It's this. Try this one. Oh, this is much better. Yeah, I want them to know that I'm onto that game with them, and I appreciate that because when they hand me a cigar, I'm going to be honest with them and say, hey, look, I think something's missing here. I think you should try this, and I'm comfortable now that I can do that now after 10 years. I wouldn't have done that 5, 6, 7 years ago. Now I'm comfortable doing
it. I think like, especially like when it comes to Jose, all of these guys who you can really consider themselves kind of master blenders, because you have a lot of guys who have been blending for 5, 6, 7 years, and they'll call themselves a master blender because they're the head blender of that company.
Well, and see, you say master blender, and I'm glad you brought it up because I usually don't. I bring it up, and I didn't want to bring it up because it's this is our first time that we've met. I never call myself a master blender, not because I'm not, and it's not, but I think a master blender is one of those titles that you're given.
It's earned.
There are some guys now in the industry. I mean, listen, I want to tell you that it's an industry where we all love each other and it's kumbaya and all that other shit.
No, that's BS.
It's not. There are a bunch of guys in this industry that I'm like, how the you got quite a set of balls on you calling your master blender. But these guys who tout themselves, I don't tout myself. You know who I tout? I tout our company. I tout our sales staff. I tout our marketing department. I tout our brand owner. I tout the team. I'm part of that, but I don't tout myself. These guys, when you start running across these guys who are too busy touting themselves,
well, and
you should be a little worried about that.
Well, and I think the one thing is, and you brought up Ernie, and the fact that he started, and probably most people know this, but he started off with La Royale. That was his first line.
When I met Ernie, I'll tell you how. When I met him, when I talked to him the other couple weeks ago, I told him we met many years ago, and he goes, "Oh, at IPCPR." I said, "No, I was a young, a young man on my department, and my first duty assignment was next to the Orange Bowl, where we had a housing police unit." And my sergeant, rest in peace, Joe Delancey at the time, was a huge cigar smoker. He was more of a cigar chewer, but
Yeah.
you know, he liked to have cigars. And we would drive to his Crédito, and he would sell us a bundle of Lavelles, 25 cigars for $17. I mean, we were paying 65 cents, 70 cigars. And I said, "I met you then." And he goes, "Well, there's no way I'm going to remember that." Of course not. I was 100 pounds lighter. You would have never recognized me. 100 pounds lighter, had a full head of hair, and I smiled a lot more. And then, you know, we kind of smiled, we kind of laughed about that. And that was one of those moments where you're like, oh, you know, this is, it was my fanboy moment. And I still have them. Listen, as much as I complain about going to the show, and trust me when I tell you, I complain about going to the show because I'm just an ordinary old man. I don't like to travel. Nevada's hot as hell.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a beehive in there. It's just people, you know, so many people, but that's the nature of our business. And believe it or not, it only just dawned on me 3 or 4 years ago that people actually go and they want to talk to me, and I don't understand why, but they want to talk to me, and I've availed myself to it because I think Jack is the one who said, "Buddy, whether you like it or not, you're one of the faces of this company, and people want to talk to you, and you know what, you got to suck it up and you got to do it." And I hate to say he's right because I don't like telling him he's right, but he's been right. And luckily Eric's given me the avenue to do it. Where do you want to go? You want to go there? Go. Where do you want to go to Ohio? Go. Yeah, go. Yeah, anything that's good for the company is good in his eyes, and you can't really beat that.
Yeah, at all. You know, but that comes with years and years of trust also.
Yeah, we've been together. Listen, in my career, I worked for the department for 32 years. I had 6 assignments in 32 years. So I lasted about 6 years in one place and I'd move on, 6 years and I'd move on. I've been there 11. That's a long time. That's like a marriage. That's longer than most marriages. So, I mean, and we started with nothing, bro. You know, and look where we are.
No, you bring that up. And, you know, when you think about a company as far as like something like a Drew Estate, and when they first started out, they were switching blends. I mean, well, they were switching blenders, you know, like you change your underwear, because, you know, they had Saka in there for a little bit, they had Nick Murillo in there for a little bit, you know.
Well, but it's a different time. That was also a different time. Drew Estate, the Drew Estate pre-Swisher and Drew Estate Swisher is two different animals. But listen, I give people, I don't know how anybody can knock Drew Estate. I don't understand why they would, but people do, because listen, we're both Mets fans and Yankee fans here. If we're not winning, we're getting dogged out. So people knocked them when they sold. It was the best thing they did for the company, because that's what the company owners wanted. They wanted to sell. They wanted to get liquid and move on. And everybody who, how good was that company? Everybody who worked for that company is doing very well now. Exactly. So that just shows you that they had a very nice piece of, they had a nice machine being built there. But people forget, Drew Estate is the first boutique cigar company. They started with the acid and selling in front of the World Trade Center, and the whole story. That's how everybody starts. Everybody has a startup story like that. That's kind of cool, and they took it to the next level. And you gotta acknowledge that, you know. And listen, if we could get rid of some of the haters in this industry, we would be in such a better place. But you know, that's just the nature of all the games, bro. Everybody, if you don't have a hater, you're not doing something right.
That's 100% true, because people hate on the barn smoker events, and they go and they hate on the swag, but it's, how do you?
They're the kings of swag. They're the kings of swag. They weren't for a while, and then when they said, "Hey, we're not going to the show anymore, and this is the money that we were using to go to the show, and now we're going to do this in swag," they blew everybody out of the water.
Yeah.
Hell, even I got some of their swag. Their swag's badass. Yeah. That the spray can fire, the spray can lighter, that's badass. these kits that they put together, their swag is great. Their swag is fantastic. And their customer base is loyal. Guys who are Drew guys are Drew guys. But
Well,
you can say that for everybody though.
yeah.
The problem is their army is just a little larger than everybody else's.
So let's go back to, we're gonna stick in the past a little bit. And what was your reaction when you first noticed that the Laranja was really getting success? And you're like, man, like did you feel pressure of
It was
like
panic. It was panic. First, it was panic because all of a sudden we released a cigar at the show, and this cigar, we're out of stock. We have we did everything the old-fashioned way. So we made Laranja in 3 sizes or 4 sizes. We had almost 1,000 boxes of each in inventory, and we go off to the show and we sell it. And when the show's over, we are close to being out of it, which means you're looking at not being able to replenish for 3 months, 2 to 3 months. The factory's working on cigars, but still you're looking at 2 to 3 months. What if the box guy gets sick? What if Nicaragua, whatever happens in Nicaragua that stops one of the functions that makes produce cigars. So we're panicked. We're at the show going, hey, I'm texting him, hey, I need you to place an order of this, that, and the other. Oh, don't forget to send me a purchase order. I can't send you a purchase order. I'm in Vegas right now, but whatever you're doing, I need you to slow that down and make some of these, because this is selling like hotcakes. Because we're going to get it in shops, and we don't want to miss that turn.
Yeah.
And that was the problem, that we were scared we were going to miss turns. And also the availability of that wrapper. That's Brazilian wrapper. It's grown in Brazil. It's got a particular color. It's not just your regular Cubra. It's Baiano Naranjado. It has to be that specific color. We can't, if it's too dark, then it just looks like regular Habano. If it's too light, it looks like it's dirty Connecticut. We had to make sure we got the right colored wrapper. So I mean, we had some pressure to make sure that we got what we needed.
So going through the process of of your core line cigars, so like the 601 series. So when you were blending those, and those came out way before I was smoking. So just going through and making the blue,
I gotta tell you, I gotta stop you though. I can't take credit for 601. I can't take credit for none of the 601s. Well, some of the 601s, but the original, the green, the red, and the blue, I cannot take credit for. Those were blends that were made prior to me coming to work for Eric. And we were lucky enough that when Eric opened up his own factory, he was still in contact with the guy who made those blends. So I can't take credit. I mean, I'm not going to take credit for. Listen, a lot of guys would, but I can't take credit for it. I mean, those are old blends. We worked on them again when we opened up the Lazona factory, and they were a little different because of the aging of the tobacco and the quality of the tobacco. But once we shipped those blends over to AJ, it's like they were back from stage one, back from day one. The one that we can say that we worked on that was an old blend is the Murcielago. I mean, if you want to go with that.
Okay.
All right. So the Murcielago was, Eric loved Murcielago. The Murcielago had the old red band, like the Bacardi bat and stuff like that. So that was made by another manufacturer. When he and Eric ended his partnership with his old partner, so did the partnership with that factory. So Eric wanted to make that cigar again. So we had to reverse engineer that cigar. We had to think about that cigar came out in this time. When that guy was making that cigar, he only had access to these tobaccos. So we reverse engineered that cigar, and we got it almost pinpoint right. And then we moved it to AJ's with the blend that we thought we had originally that was right, and it was dead on. So that was, I still can't take credit for it, but we could take credit for the reverse engineering part, for dissecting it, for doing the what do you call it, the autopsy on it.
Yeah. Which is still
it's a very good cigar. Listen, it's got one of those, it's Mexican. It's one of the first Mexican cigars that it's the first Mexican cigar in our portfolio. It was one of the first Mexican cigars that the original manufacturer made. It has that smell. There's only a couple of cigars that when I'm in a room and somebody lights it, I can identify it right away. The first is Padron. When somebody lights a Padron in the room, that guy smoking Padron. That guy over there. And when a guy lights a Murcielago, that guy smoking Murcielago. It just has, and they're not the same cigar by any means, but they just have, there's something about that. When somebody lights that cigar around me, I right away, I know what that is. I can't say that for everything that we make, but for those two, I'm dead on with those.
So, and you just came out with the Murcielago in I believe it's the TAA edition.
Yeah, that was if you get a chance to smoke one of those, because those are super limited because it's for the TAA. But we wanted to join the TAA was one of those things that it's. I mean, I'm trying to find the right analogy as to why you join the TAA. The TAA is a very established organization of retailers, that they've been around a long time. It's 80 stores or something like that, and it's a buying group. And then and a lot of the older stores in the country are part of this TAA, and I think it's kind of like a feather in your cap to be a member of the TAA. So I remember that, listen, it's a double-edged sword, because now you're making a cigar only for TAA members that your regular clients can't get. And that can cause a little friction, But I think at the end of the day, Eric explained it enough that, listen, it's something that we have to do for the better of our company, because it helps us to grow, helps us to make more product, diversify our portfolio even more, for more things that we can offer you guys. So the TAA Murcielago is a very similar blend to what you're smoking in the Murcielago there. It's just tweaked a little bit. It's not as strong. It's a little bit scaled back, because whenever I do an LE, I want to do something that has mass appeal. Everybody says they smoke strong, but that's not true. Yep. If you look at the scale of 0 to 100, and this is only my opinion. I mean, you could have 70 guys on here and they're all different. I believe that 20% of the market smokes really strong, full-bodied, high-spice cigars, and maybe 20% of the market smokes really mild, puffing air cigars, the ones, golf course cigars, boating cigars, working on the lawn cigars. But in the middle is those 60% that smoke medium bodied cigars. All right. So I think that when you're going to do an LE, you want to do something that lands right smack in the middle, which is accessible to both the strong smoker and the mild smoker. The mild smoker is going up. Are you like boxing? Are you a boxing guy? Of
course.
All right. So you're having a guy go up from welterweight to super welterweight to smoke that, and you're having a guy go from cruiserweight to super welterweight. You have a guy go down one weight class and up one weight class to smoke this very limited cigar. And it's a Mexican San Andres, but it's a San Andres Claro. Has a completely different taste than the regular Murcielago wrapper. And we did very well with that cigar. Listen, we sacrificed, that was going to be our release for this year for the show, but we had it ready, and we wanted to be the first ones that when TAA had their meeting and they broke their meeting, we had the cigar ready to go, and we did. And I'm telling you, that cigar got so much traction on social media. It was ridiculous.
So, you talk, you were speaking about, like the TAA, and you want to find that medium smoker, because when I smoke cigars, they knock me in my ass. So, right. I am 0-2 against the Davidoff Late Hour Churchill.
0-2, really?
I'm 0-2. I am 0-2.
But yet you're smoking a Warhead. You're smoking a Warhead 6. A Warhead. Hey, that's.
I can go through two of these with no problem. I don't know what it is.
But it's, remember that my idea about an LE is, because LEs, again, this is just my own hypothesis. A lot of guys will try an LE. It'll be the first cigar they might have in that line.
Yeah. Because
it's an LE. Oh, it's a limited from these guys. I've never had it. Let me try their stuff. Let me try that LE. And that LE, if it's a good LE, if it's a smokable LE, if it's got good flavor and it's a good smoking experience, that will put them on the track to try other stuff on your line. But if the cigar's too strong, or if the cigar's too mild, you're gonna if it's too mild, you shut off 80% of the smokers. If it's too strong, you shut off 80% of the smokers in the other direction. But if it's right in the middle, you can say, hey, I like this. It's, I wish Do they have anything else that might be stronger in their portfolio? Well, sure. You can have Warhead, Oscuro, Azulejo. Do you have anything milder in this portfolio? Sure. You can try the Laranja, the Espinosa Habano, the Crema. So, I mean, we hit kind of smack dab in the middle. So if the guy likes it and then he wants to discover our brand further, he can go in either direction.
Like one thing, the one I want to go back to, and a lot of people, they don't use it a lot anymore, which is Candela. And and they say, Candela is hard to use, it's hard to it's hard to make, and and people,
it's hard to smoke.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. So we did a cigar. There was a company called Moya Ruiz that wanted to do a cigar called Pickle Juice, where they were going to make a Candela cigar and put it in a bottle that looked like pickles. That was their look. In my opinion, I thought the Moya Ruiz was on path to kind of follow that Viaje format of limited, funky releases, that that very eclectic packaging, very unique. And I don't want to say gimmicky, because listen, there's always a gimmick in cigar industry, whether if it's not the cigar itself or the packaging, it's the swag. So they wanted a Candela done. So I had to smoke every Candela I could get my hands on. And when I tell you that there is a lot of bad Candela out there, there is a lot of bad Candela out there. However, I was very lucky. I smoked 3 Candelas that I really, really like. And I say it all the time. I got no problem. I smoked the Candela from La Flor Dominicana. I smoked Ilusion's Candela, and I smoked Roma Craft's Candela. And I said, I like these. If I got to make something in this ballpark here, even though all 3 of those are different, this is what I'm looking for. These other 5 or 6, and I don't want to go into detail on those, but I got to stay away from these. So I go to Nicaragua and I work on Candela, and I'm having a hell of a time to get it to taste anything besides lawn clippings.
Yeah.
So I use these relationships that I have established over the years, and I drive down to a factory and I talk to a guy that I respect his opinion. I go, so what's up? What are you doing? What's going on? What brings you to Nicaragua? Oh, I'm working on this and the other. Bro, I'm having a hard time with this Candela. He goes, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. He goes, well, what's in the blend? I said, I'm using this, I'm using that. And he goes, what binder are you using? I said, I'm using that. He goes, no, that's your problem right there. Get rid of that binder. Get rid of that binder and your problems will be gone. I'm like, hey, so you want something to drink? Nope, gotta go. got in my car, hauled ass, went back to the factory, and make me 10 of these like this, 10 like this, and 10 like that. And 3 different blends, changed the binder on all 3 of them. The blends are all different. The binder now is all the same. And I said, you know what? That one in the middle, I want you to box press that, which I don't think anybody has a box press Candela. So the first one became pickle juice. The second one became wasabi. And the third one nobody else wanted a Candela, so we didn't use it for anything else. But the wasabi, still to this day, we sell a couple thousand boxes of wasabi a year. I mean, and then we just did a Lancero. People love the Lancero and the wasabi. I mean, it's crazy. But it was a matter of, you got to do your homework. You just can't go into it blind. The guys will say, hey, can you make me a cigar? Like we're doing more cigars for other people. I want to make a cigar for my shop, or I want to make it some private label. I don't have that. We don't have that luxury of, let's walk into the warehouse and go into the factory. They can't go to Nicaragua. They might not be able to go to Nicaragua. I might not be able to go to Nicaragua at the time they can go. So I'll simply say, what are you smoking that you like? Oh, I'm smoking this and I'm smoking that. I said, okay. And I'll go and if I haven't smoked those cigars before, which is very rare that I haven't, I'll go and I'll reacquaint myself with that cigar. I said, all right, I think I know what he wants. And I'll go and I'll make him something, not the same, but something in that wheelhouse. Can't replicate the same cigar, but something in that wheelhouse. And that's kind of how that product worked for us. Those projects worked for us.
The one thing that I learned is, from back in the day, before like the aging process, back in the 40s and the 50s, Candela was all everybody smoked.
Candela was the number 1 selling cigar into the 50s in this country.
Yeah. And
I mean, it was. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, it was.
And I was gonna say, and he said, and what I was taught was, people, it was known because Candela is sweet, so it was known as people would chew it. So they would say that they would smoke it from the back forward because they would end up chewing on the tobacco.
I hadn't heard that part, but listen, I know that Candela is kind of, I don't want to say it's a resurgence, but in the last year or two, there have been 3 or 4 new Candelas that have been to market. So listen, I want to be able to, when I'm done in this industry, which is in, let's say another 5 years, 57 years, let's say another 5 years. When I'm done in 5 years, I want to be able to say, I made a good Candela, I made a good Habano, I made a good Connecticut, whatever wrapper out there. And we made a good Cameroon. We did a Cameroon called War Zone that we did with General. We've made good broadleafs. We've made good Mexican, Sumatras, Matafina. I still need to make a good cigar with Pennsylvania broadleaf. I still need to make a good cigar with Arapiraca. I haven't had a chance to work with that yet. But there are wrappers that I want to work with. There are tobaccos that I want to work with. That's all part of my, my personal bucket list of stuff that I want.
What I wanted to touch on too was just the rise of San Andreas wrapper.
The San Andreas wrapper, what's not to like about it? What's not to like about it? I love it. I love the sweetness of it. I love I like, sometimes you get some toothy varieties. Sometimes you'll get the real nice, clean, clean, smooth version of the wrapper. I love Mexican San Andreas. I really do like Mexican. I'm not crazy about Mexican filter tobacco, but when it comes to the wrapper, love it.
Because from people that I speak to, they say that it's a lot cheaper than going with Connecticut broadleaf, because Connecticut broadleaf is
Connecticut broadleaf. Remember, it's where the Connecticut broadleaf being grown in Connecticut is going to be any. It's why are iPhones made in China and not made in Massachusetts? Because you have the labor costs that are involved. But now they're growing broadleaf in Nicaragua. They're growing broadleaf. They're trying to grow broadleaf everywhere. I'm surprised that they haven't figured out how to grow Mexican San Andreas anywhere outside of Mexico. I would think that by now they'd figure out how to grow it in Ometepe or something like that, because the soil is supposedly volcanic, and Ometepe tobacco has a particular flavor to it that maybe, but that's not my thing. I'm not a grower. The guys who grow tobacco are geniuses at another level.
And like one of my other favorite rappers in itself is Corojo.
Ooh.
Oh no, not Corojo, but Corolla.
No, Criollo.
Yep.
Criollo. All right. So Corojo, that whole discussion about what Criollo and Corojo is, what I've known, everything is Criollo. All Habano seed is Criollo, unless it's Corojo. So Corojo is something that we have a cigar coming out this year, the new 6 provinces, which is our high-end cigar, and it's my first time working with a Corojo wrapper. So I'm really excited about that. It's every cigar has been different. The first one was full bodied. The second one was medium bodied. The third one was medium full. The fourth one was fuller. And now I'm going back to a medium bodied cigar. A lot of flavor on that cigar. So there's just so much out there innocent. There's so many things there's so much stuff to play with. It's ridiculous. I haven't worked with a lot of Dominican tobacco. I haven't worked with a lot of Honduran tobacco. I have, but I haven't worked with I haven't worked with San Vicente. I haven't worked with Olor. Honduran tobacco is an acquired taste. I'm not a big fan of Honduran cigars to begin with, but there are some companies out there that are making Honduran tobacco that's fantastic. CLE is making a good Honduran tobacco. Aladino is making a good.
I love CLE. Love CLE.
The stuff that his brother Justo's doing is very good. So listen, I've got 5 years. I figure I got 5 years. We've got some time to do some other stuff. The only tobacco I don't have any plans on working with is Cuban tobacco, because as far as I'm concerned, it's the ill-gotten fruit. It's not really my I don't really give that too much thought.
Like I got my fingers crossed that time doubles, that somehow, some way.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but man, I'm 57. I'm going on 5 years. I'll be 62. And I look at these guys who never retire, who never got a chance to take it. take a trip just out of the blue. You know, I want to be able to retire a little bit. I want to be able to yell at the kids in my neighborhood, get off my lawn, and be the nasty old man who gives out toothpaste at Halloween and shit like that. You know, I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So, you know, don't take that away from me, bro.
All right, all right. You know what? My dad says the same thing every day. He goes. I got 2 more years. I go, Dad, you're not going nowhere. You're gonna be bored. I go, Dad. I go. You're gonna be bored.
People ask me now. I see guys, I run across guys that I worked with. You know, I'll go to these police functions and I'll run across them. Hey, how's retired life? Oh, I'm still working, bro. What are you talking about? You're still working? Yeah, working. But then they look at me and they go, the balls on you. You work in a cigar you work in a cigar manufacturer. You're smoking, you go to work at 9 a.m. You wear shorts to work. You're smoking cigars during the day. I go, all right, so maybe it's not a really heavy duty job, but it's got its own pressure and it's got its own problems and it's work, you know, but I look forward to the day that I get up and I don't really have to go to work, you know. And I mean that day's not here, but I look forward to it, you know. I'm getting ready for retirement, you know. I bought myself a little play car, a little car to mess around with, and you know, I got the shit that I like, my baseball collectibles and my, you know, and you know, shit like that, shit that makes me that I like, you know. I finally got into jazz music like I really wanted to. You know, it's, you know, not just, you know, so it's now that I want to have that free time to, some people go back to school. I want to go back to school, but I want to educate myself on some of the things that I know I've missed out on.
No, some of my favorite times at the shop. I'm not really one of those guys who like smoking alone.
I hate smoking alone.
Some people like smoking alone. Some of my favorite times are at the shop when one guy at the shop, Mario, he puts on old school Cuban music from the 50s, 60s.
Pre-revolution old school music.
Yes, and we'll sit there and we'll smoke cigars, and he'll sit there and he'll explain the artist, explain the music, and I love that. And I'm sitting there smoking a cigar, just listening to the instruments, and it's just
A lot of guys in the industry miss out on that because they work in a cigar factory or cigar manufacturer during the day, and the last thing they want to do is go sit at a shop. But I like to go sit at my shop. I'm a member of, and we're not, there's no membership, but I am a regular at a shop where all of these guys are just salt of the earth guys. I mean, you know, when the hurricane hit me a couple of years ago and I didn't have power for 4 days, one of the guys brought a generator so I could run electricity through the house. On the second day, you know, after the hurricane came and I didn't have my cheeky hut was damaged. The other guy came and he did the electrical work for me. But these are also the same guys. Hey, bro, can you help me out with this? They're constantly helping each other out.
But
that's I guess fellowship is the word I'm looking for. It's almost like going to Baptist church. You know, you got a lot of fellowship going on at these places that you don't see. And I think a lot of guys miss out on that.
well, and I think the one thing is like you become family because you're there. You know, the same guys come in. You know, the same guys come into the shop, and we sit and we talk. We'll talk sports. We'll talk politics. And you know, the thing too is that nobody gets upset about if you're red, if you're blue, but we'll sit there and we'll just talk and just, you know, because at the end of the day, everybody has their own opinions on everything.
And it's a great shop. I mean, we don't have that because you can play. I came up with a thing called cigar shop bingo. So you have a card and you're looking for the alpha smoker, the guy who tells everybody what to smoke. Then the guy who's the one upper. Oh, you went to the gym. How much you bench yesterday? I benched 335. Oh, that's nice. I did 340. That guy, the guy who tells you he got the guy with the better car, the guy with more guns, the guy with all the women, the boaster. We don't have any of that shit. All these guys are just blue collar, just cigar guys. And none of these guys will tell you, oh, what you're smoking is shit. Oh, that's what you smoke. What you smoke is what you smoke. A guy's relationship with his cigar is almost the same as a guy's relationship with a sports team, as his God, as his favorite type of woman. Yep. Some guys say redheads are the devil. Well, you know what? I'm down with that. You know, so everybody's got their thing. And that's the great thing about the shop. The biggest problem with that shop is the shop owner. He's an asshole, but we love him because he's a lovable asshole, you know? So
exactly. Well, that's Sanj.
Well, yeah, and I've never met Sanj, but people tell me that Sanj is a personality. You got to have. I think if you're going to own a shop, you have to have a personality.
Have that personality. You know, this is the one thing I hate. I hate the person that smokes the same cigar. I always want the people that go and because when you're in a cigar shop, you're in a candy shop. It's so many different things to try.
Well, but you can't say that either, because like in a candy shop, you might have 4 or 5 favorite candies.
Yeah.
Cigars, there's a lot more. Listen, what did I tell you? The 2 questions that you ask in a cigar store. The 2 questions that you're asked right away: how you doing, and what's new. And if you're not getting them what's new, then the shop doesn't grow. Because if the shop doesn't bring in new stuff, the clientele's palate doesn't grow. The clientele, they don't get the full cigar experience. And the shop that I go to is kind of like an industry shop, because he's open late, and guys from the industry. Miami is kind of the hub of the cigar industry.
Of course.
So a lot of guys walk into that shop, and the guys who go, who are regulars there, they're flies on the wall of some of the shit that the cigar guys are talking about each other and about what's new, and it's like being in a hair salon at times, but it's fantastic.
Sometimes some people will come in the Sanjay's shop, and I'll go and sneak into the back, and I'll smoke in the back. I won't say nothing. I just sit there and I listen. I sit there and I listen, and I'm just taking in knowledge. I'm just taking in what they're saying about this cigar, what they're saying about that cigar, and I'm there, and I'm just like, oh, interesting. And you're just like, oh, I never thought about it that way. I never crossed my mind to even think like that. So I love being there when he has cigar people in there, and he'll go and let me sit in the back, and I'll go right to the back, and I'll be chilling in the cut while he's over there just drilling. He's like, listen, he goes, I've been in this business for over 30 years. I've seen so many brands come. I've seen brands go, and then down in the basement, he has like this gold mine. Oh, he has stuff from like there was a flood. We had a really bad rainstorm about 2 years ago, and he lost about, I would say, maybe 50% of his collection.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're talking about old Cuban stuff.
That's a shame.
Yeah, and but he still has that one room. And I went in there last week for the first time, and when you walk in there, it's just that smell just hits you like, oh my God, it's like heaven.
And listen, like I said, I don't travel as much as the other 2 guys in the group, in the company, but every cigar shop's different, and all of them have their own personalities. All of them are unique, and you could have shops 5 miles from each other that are completely different. One might be a strict boutique shop. One might be only big brands. There's a shop in Texas, Lanceros, super Lancero heavy. Some shop might be big 6x60 shops. I always said I wanted to have a shop until I got into the cigar industry and said, hell no, I could never have a shop, because you have to do a lot of babysitting. It's like being like doing an ALF. You got to take care of all these guys at the damn place. But you can have the greatest idea for what you want to bring in your inventory, and your customers dictate that. You said, no, I can get my customers on what you want. Maybe you can, but it'll take a while to get them there. If the guy wants to smoke, and I'm not dissing any brand here at all, but if the guy says, hey, I like Macanudo whites, and Macanudo whites might not be in my wheelhouse, but if the guy's going to come in every 2 days and buy 5 Macanudo whites, guess what?
You're going on the shelf.
I'm going to have Macanudo tubos on the shelf, so the guy can get his Macanudos and go and be happy. So that's the thing about this industry. It's a crazy industry. Look, these 5 years are going to fly by. I know that. I know they are, and and maybe 5 years is maybe it'll be 7 years. Who knows? But I know that as long as it's interesting and it's fun, and it's exciting, and we continue to grow as a company, there's no reason for me not to want to be a part of this.
And the one thing about, like, when you talk about a lounge, like, some lounges are clubs, because when you go in there, they got the music playing.
Oh, yeah. I don't like those.
Why? Some lounges are clubs. Some lounges are where everybody's just scattered. It's no music, but everybody's scattered. I like a place that when you go in, everybody speaks to each other.
A shop's going to be, look, you're going to have guys who walk into the shop, grab their shit and go. That's just exactly. They got shit to do, or they like to smoke at home, or they're just not, maybe they're not personable, or they like to hang out with their own people. I get it. And then you have guys who come in and sit down and are part of the round table, They're part of of what drives that shop. And every once in a while, you get guys who are new to the shop will sit down and they'll either keep coming back or they don't. But they enjoy the nice chair and the music that's on the radio, or if there's a game playing, and never too loud that you can't talk. Exactly. I don't go to cigar bars because if I have to scream at you, I'm not in a good spot. That's not comfortable for me.
And that's the biggest thing. You want to be at a place that you're able to, if you want to watch the game, you can hear the game, and you're able to, like, it's nice to have some music in the background, but some low, nice jazz that's going, and you could just really just vibe off of that. And also too, the one thing is you can always ask somebody, "Oh, what are you smoking?"
Absolutely.
Oh, what are you smoking?
Or have you tried this? Hey, have you tried that? And listen, there are 60 facings or 70 facings of Espinosa in that shop. I don't need to do that because it's an Espinosa lounge.
Yeah.
But the guys in there smoke Espinosa, not in deference to me. They smoke because they like Espinosa. But if the guy picks up the Tatuaje, or he picks up my father, or he picks up a Herrera Steli, or a Blackworks, or a Roma, or a Soccer, or a Malelo, I don't say anything to him. I want variety is what keeps you coming back. If all of our cigars taste the same, then you'd be smoking because the band is pretty. I like this band better than that band. So you want them to smoke everything. And hell, I go there because I get to smoke other stuff that I don't make and get and get some ideas. I really like what they did here, man. When I talk to this guy, I'm going to ask him what he got here. And this is really good. I really like this. Or I've never said, "Oh, this sucks." When I see him, I'm going to tell him, "No, I'm not going to do that." But I want to be able. There's a problem when you're in the industry. When you're in the industry, I think everybody, and not just if you do the blending or whatever, people come to you and say, "Have you had this?" You want to be able to say yes, and that's and it's you want to be able to say yes. So I'll smoke my 2 or 3 Espinosas at the shop at the warehouse, and not all the way through because you're spoiled when you're in the industry, and then you go to the shop and I'll try that's new, or the guy from HVC comes in who's a very nice guy. Everybody loves this guy, and he hands you a cigar. Boom, you smoke it. Last night I'm at the shop watching the Heat lose, and that's just unfortunate. But I'm at the shop. We're watching the game. The game's over, and one of the reps from another company comes in. He puts a cigar in my pocket. It's the right thing to do is to smoke it.
Exactly.
That's a cigar he should be giving a customer, a consumer, not another guy in the industry. So the respectful thing is to open it up, cut it, and smoke it.
Right there. And so what I was taught was if somebody gives you a cigar, you take the cigar you're smoking, you rest that one, the one that the person gave you like that one right in front of them.
Absolutely. Listen, cigar smokers are some of the most generous people here, regardless of how they might be personally. But if there's 6 guys in the room and only 5 of them have humidors and one of them forgot their humidor at home, all of them are smoking.
Yeah.
All of them are smoking. I've never met a cigar smoker who's not willing to part with a cigar for somebody.
Exactly.
That's one of the great things about this industry.
So, one thing. So this is an interesting question. How do you? So how most lounges have their store blend. Their their store
their store brand, right?
Their house blends,
right?
How do you feel about places that have bad store brand that have the bad store pick?
It's a rock and a hard place situation. We don't do a lot of store brands. We do store brands for the ones when Eric says, "Hey, do a store brand for him." Eric's the boss. We have a strong enough presence in that shop that a store brand is not going to cannibalize the sales of our cigar. A store brand, if you do a store brand for a store, I'm not saying you're doing them a favor, but you're giving them a cigar that they're going to be able to make a little bit more profit on.
Yep.
And it's also kind of a nod to the fact that, hey, this is a company that is present and represented in our store, and they made a special cigar for us. And you're not making more of those than the stuff you sell them. You're making them an allotment for it to be a kind of a special thing. Now, I don't want to differentiate between bundle shops and store brands.
Yes, that's okay.
The bundle shopper. Look, the guy who buys bundles buys bundles. Yep. He doesn't want to spend. Look, there are guys who don't want to spend more than $6 or $7 on a cigar. I don't know where they're going to find that 6 or 7, but I guess bundles work for them. They have no problem lighting a cigar, and if they got to put it down or throw it out because they're policemen going from one call to another, or firefighters, or working as mechanics, and they don't have time, and they don't mind chucking. It doesn't hurt them to chuck a $5 cigar, but it does hurt them to chuck a $13 cigar. So they smoke bundles. I get it. You have to have cigars for everybody. So you can't look down your nose at guys who buys bundles. That's what they want. Listen, there are guys who have steak at Golden Corral. You want them to go to Ruth Chris and have a steak, or Peter Luger's in New York, but the guy likes the steak and Cracker Barrel. Yep. Let him have the steak and Cracker Barrel. You can't look down your nose at him. And as for house brands, if the shop has a house brand that he's very proud of, that the situation might be he had something to do with making that cigar. He might have gone to the Dominican or Nicaragua and helped blend that cigar, and that's his cigar, and he wants to sell it. What are you going to do? It's the guy's. He's a proprietor. Let him do what he wants.
One thing that like the bundle sticks. Like for me, anything that I, when I'm doing overtime, I have an hour break. So I always make sure that if I'm going to work, I have bundle sticks on me, because I don't feel guilty. Like you said, I don't feel guilty about throwing it out, because it's like, all right, I got 3/4 through. I can't finish it all the way. All right, whatever. It scratched the itch for the meantime.
Before I got into the industry, I always had some bundles with me, because nothing hurts more than before I worked for a manufacturer. When I'd take, we'd go work a detail or something, one of those sweeps or something late at night, and I'd take 6 or 7 cigars with me in case I wanted to smoke one, and in case I wanted to hand one off to somebody. That you give a guy a cigar that costs you $10-12. This is years ago, and that he smoked like 3 inches of it. Oh, I don't like it, and he throws it away. You're like, you know what? That's not going to work. Here's a bundle cigar that cost me $4. Yep. If you like it, smoke it. If you don't like it, toss it. If you don't like it and you want to bitch about it, bring your own goddamn cigars. So, that's you have something for the masses. If somebody sees you smoking, all of a sudden you'll see a guy who doesn't really smoke, but he sees 2 or 3 guys smoking. Hey, anybody got an extra cigar? Here. You give him a bundle cigar.
Exactly.
Hey, next time, be ready, bro. You got to be ready. You got to have your own shit on you.
Yeah. And I think, the one thing that, it's when you're trying to bring a new cigar smoker in, and it's like, man, and some people will say, oh, well, I gave him this. And it's like, well, that's too strong. You're going to scare them away. I'm glad you mentioned that. That is one of I see it all the time. I see it at the shop. New guys come in, and I think Alan, who runs the shop, does a great job of, I'm going to give you, the first cigar I'm going to give you is a middle of the road cigar. It's a cigar that has nice flavor. It's not very strong. It's not very peppery. I'm going to give you the cigar. Smoke it. And the guy smokes it. How'd you like it? I liked it. I really like the cigar. Okay. Are you ready to try something stronger? No. This is where I want to be. The guy says, I want to try something. You shoot him up. There are guys who have told me, oh, I just started smoking a year ago and I only smoked Liga 9s. Really? You only smoked Liga 9s? You jumped right into the deep end of the pool? Exactly.
But hey, maybe his palate can take it. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's a former cigarette smoker. Maybe he's a pipe smoker. Maybe, maybe he has no taste buds left. I don't know. Maybe there's no nuance left and he needs something heavy. It's that. If it's a store where a guy's coming in who wants to smoke for the first time, it's the responsibility of the retailer to put him in the right cigar. Now, if you got a buddy, your buddy's not going to have the same palate as you. It's just like drinks. The guy goes, oh man, let's go out for a few drinks. Well, what do you drink? Well, I hardly ever drink. You're not going to give that guy a $75 pour Macallan. You're going to say, well, let's try you here. Let's put you on. Try the black. See the Johnny Walker Black. See how you like that. Oh, I like this. You work them there. I personally, a lot of guys will say, well, it might take me 10 or 12 cigars to find my rhythm. Well, what's wrong with that? The first time you busted a nut, it wasn't a good one either. You got good at that too, right? So I mean, shit,
I think that's the biggest thing is,
Damn, I can't believe I used that analogy, bro. I'm sorry. I just went all.
That is perfectly fine.
Listen, you
know what? Like, listen, it's like the first time you had sex in the Copland bus. That you're like,
Right. No, but I mean, the first time you did it, you turned around, and you went. You don't ask the girl, was that good? You don't. You better hope she doesn't say that. That was some sorry dick. You just got to You just got to say, well, I got to get better at this. Same thing applies. You got to give it some patience and practice.
yeah, exactly. Like the first time you were in there in that Copland bus, all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, this is the best feeling in the world.
Child support. I'm thinking about child support now.
Listen, man. I'm counting down the years right now, so don't worry.
No.
But like one thing I always ask my guests is also too is what was your favorite moment of like when you smoked a cigar that you always think back to, like, man, that was amazing?
Well, I've had some really good moments. I've smoked cigars with some really great people in this industry, and I don't have. My dad didn't smoke. None of my family smokes, but my son kind of grew up around cigars because I smoke cigars. So I remember when he went to the desert, was in the sandbox for a year and a half. I sent him cigars, and because he was smoking cigars, but we had never smoked a cigar together.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent him cigars while he was over there, and cigars really greased a lot of shit for him. Hey man, warrant officer came by, asked if I had a cigar. I gave him a cigar. He was like, anything you need, Alfonso, you let me know. So when he came back from the desert, his first day he came back, we sat outside and we had a cigar, and we really didn't talk because he had just come back and he had seen, he was in Mosul. I mean, it was probably the second worst place to be in Iraq, third, probably outside of Baghdad and Fajul, I think it's called, or where the Marines were. I mean, he was in Mosul, which is pretty bad. So we didn't really talk. We just had a cigar. And how you doing? How you feeling? And just kind of vibed. And we smoke all the time. I mean, that's one of the great things about being a father at my age. Having a son who's 36. And he's a police officer now. So I mean, he comes in and we have a cigar, and it's a bonding thing. I mean, my dad didn't smoke. I didn't have that with my dad, but I had baseball with my father and boxing, and so that was probably the best moment for me is the cigars I had with him when he first came back from Iraq. Now having a cigar with him is like having a cigar with one of the boys. As a matter of fact, he goes to the same shop I do, and he's one of the regulars there. So that's probably my best moment.
Yeah, me smoking with my dad for the first time was I really took that in because it was something that I really enjoy, and for him to go and do something that I enjoy is one of the best moments. And I'm waiting for the when my son graduates from high school, I'll give him a little peer pressure to have a nice graduation, smoke with the old man. So
that's cool.
But I'll make sure I teach him how to do it properly because I don't want him to inhale and he's coughing up a lung. So
yeah, well, the problem is that I'm to blame for my own problems with him because now when I'm not here, he'll just drop by the crib and help himself to whatever I got lying around. So I got to be careful because the boy got good taste. He ain't smoking bundles. Yeah. The boy ain't smoking bundles, and he knows the stuff I make that's high end and the stuff that I get from other people that is not part of my regular rotation, but I have it here because every once in a while I'll crave it. He goes straight to the high end of the bar.
Yeah.
He doesn't leave any Fuentes or Padrones or any of our higher end stuff laying around. If he sees it, it's gone.
Wow. So of course, like before the podcast, we spoke about sports like a half an hour before the podcast. So
sports guys, bro. Sports guys like to talk sports.
Exactly. So growing up, who was your favorite fighter of all? Like, who was your guy when you were growing up?
All right. I want to tell you, I could lie to you like all these other guys and tell you that they only like champions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you listen, you ever talk to these guys who like gangster movies? Everybody wants to be Al Pacino, Scarface, or The Godfather. I wanted to be Tom Hagen. I like the guy that you don't expect to be. Mm-hmm. So my favorite, I like the heavyweights because I grew up in an era where the heavyweights were still relevant. But as I got older, I really became a bigger fan of the welterweights. And while everybody will tell you they love Sugar Ray, Sugar Ray Leonard, I love Thomas Hearns. I like Tommy Hearns.
Tommy Hearns.
Tommy Hearns. I liked watching Tommy Hearns fight. I liked watching middleweights. I liked watching Benitez, and I liked watching Duran and Arguello, and those lightweights to welterweights. But Tommy Hearns was my favorite. That fight that he had with Hagler, where I thought he had a chance, and that was some of the most intense boxing I had seen for 2 rounds until Hagler knocked him out. But Hagler, I loved watching Hagler fight. He was long and lanky, and he left-handed, and he'd sticky to the body, and the fight against Leonard and
break you down.
Yeah, I was a big fan. I was a big fan of Tommy Hearns. Tommy Hearns. If I when I go back every once in a while, I'll go back and look at some of those YouTube fights. Tommy Hearns just. Maybe it might have been coaching, but raw skills. I mean, a welterweight at that height, a welterweight with that reach, with that hook, being left-handed, he gave you all kind of trouble. And then he just ran into a buzzsaw with Hagler. Hagler was just next level, man.
He came from Crunk Gym.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't know the backstory. I just
he came from Crunk Gym over in Michigan.
Yeah, I know the Motor City Hitman or something. The Motor City Hitman.
If you notice, you notice those yellow trunks. When you seen guys wear those yellow trunks,
that's all from Crunk. That's Crunk Gym.
Those are all Crunk. Those Ray Mercer.
So and then after Hearns, I guess I got to tell you that I like fighters that fight. I mean, and I think boxing is a lost art, but I like fighters that fight moving towards you. And I was a big Julio Cesar Chavez fan because I those guys, they just move forward. They're fighting forward. They're not backpedaling. They're just moving forward. And I like I like watching Cesar Chavez fight. I mean, they were champions, and they fought a little bit too long, and and their reign ended. But those are the 2 fighters that if they were on a pay-per-view or if they were fighting, I would go, whoever had the pay-per-view going on at the crib, I would go see it because I like to watch them.
So me and my coworkers, so we have something called a stable. We have a stable of guys that are our guys.
Right.
So like I love guys like Sean Porter. I love what's my boy's name? Man, Peterson. Lamont Peterson. Love Lamont Peterson because he was gonna bring it. Lamont Peterson. I love Costa Zoo. I love guys who when they're in there, they're gonna take one to give one. So I love guys like Costa Zoo. Who else I loved, and I didn't find out him till late, was Julian Jackson.
Oh, that's right.
So Julian Jackson, and me and my boy were talking about this. He was the only guy when he knocked you out, you weren't moving. You were sleeping. Like when he knocked people out, they were either on their back not moving, or face down not moving. And his whole game was, I'm gonna touch you. And when
I'm gonna touch you. Oh, that's funny. I had a lieutenant who said, I'm gonna have to touch you. I remember you say that. But I like the guys at the shop, they watch a lot of MMA. So I have a UFC and a lot of MMA. Yeah. And I started to watch a little bit of it, but and this is gonna sound weird. I like watching the women MMA fight because they don't fuck around. They go right to it.
Yeah.
Nunez and all these bitches, they go that little fucking, there's a little white girl who just Rose, whatever.
Naga Nunez.
Right, but the Rose, what's her name? Thug Rose. These girls don't play. I mean, the guys dance for 2 rounds. These girls scrapping from the bell. I like watching that.
My favorite was Joanna. That's my girl. I liked her, and I liked the women's champion, the Chinese chick, because
but isn't that the Chinese chick who lost? Isn't that the one who got who Rose kicked her in the back of the head or something like? Yeah, that was crazy. That was a crazy fight.
Beast. But now my favorite fighter now is Vasily Lomachenko.
Oh, the big dude, the big Russian guy, right?
No, he's the guy at 135 who just fought 2 weeks ago.
Oh, that I don't know that. I'm not really that up on the MMA guys.
No, he's a boxer.
Oh, a boxer. Oh, okay, no, I'm talking about MMA stuff.
He's a boxer from Ukraine.
Oh no, I haven't. I'm not really up on the fight game that much, man. Because right now it's baseball season, baby. It's baseball season. It's baseball season on the heels of football season. So
Yeah, this guy, his father, when he was 9, he took him out of boxing and put him into Ukrainian dance until he was 13.
so he's all kind of flexible.
Oh, his footwork is the best. His second fight was a world title fight.
Wow, man.
He is the best. Like, to me, that's my guy. Vasily Lomachenko. Like, and my thing is, like, when it comes to boxing, and I also love the Cuban style of fighting. So
Well, I hate to say it because I'm such an
yeah,
anti-Islander, but I did prior to the, I'd say 76 to 88 in that era. I liked watching Cuban boxers.
yeah,
Cuban boxers are very, very, very good, but they were very, very good for 3 rounds.
yeah.
I mean, they never had to fight more than 3 rounds, and
Like, uh the guys now, like Lara is I'm not, there's no way I'm gonna be able to pronounce his first name, but his last name is Lara. He fought Canelo and he beat Canelo, but they gave him the decision. You know,
oh, that was
he
that last Canelo fight that you're talking about.
no. This was years. This is
Oh,
when
like I said, I really have lost. When you ask me about boxing, it's when I was following boxing. I just haven't kept up with it, and I really have.
don't worry. I'm gonna text you some clips of some guys.
Oh, okay, cool.
If you can watch them on YouTube. Man, but like boxing to me is like I can like if UFC is on and boxing's on, I'm putting on the boxing match.
Listen, I saw 2 of the 3 fights between those 2 heavyweights.
Wilder and Fury.
Oh my God.
Oh, Fury is he's the king.
Bro, those guys, I haven't seen guys beat each other like that. They would beat the hell out of each other.
Oh, yeah.
But it was, it's boxing it's taken a back seat to like the other sports. But when I was a younger kid, boxing was, my dad loved boxing, and so we watched a lot of boxing. And think about it. I told you who's Cesar Chavez. He stopped boxing 10 years ago. That's about pretty much when I kind of moved on.
And second, and Chavez, his son should be left on a fucking napkin.
His what? I'm sorry.
Son should be left on a napkin, man.
Damn.
Yeah, fuck his
should have swallowed him.
yeah, he should fucking swallowed, man. His son's a bum. But
that's fucked up, man.
His father's at every fight with the headband, cheering his son on.
Of course, what are you gonna do? I mean, he's your kid. I mean, you don't think Marvin, you don't think Frazier was there watching Marvin's fight, knowing Marvin's gonna get his ass kicked by Mike Tyson. I mean, it's you as your kid, you got to back up your kid. You ain't got a chance, but you got to back up your kid. What are you gonna do?
Funny shit is about like the 4th round, you see Chavez just like this.
Man, hey, it could be worse. He could be in his corner. Not like having your pops in your corner and just like, what are you doing, dog? You suck. It's awful,
man. But like, so like you say, you're a big baseball guy. So who was your guy growing up in baseball?
Well, I am the biggest Eagles fan ever. I mean, yeah, I know what he did was wrong, and but he's the hit king. I mean, this is a guy who, this is the hit king, all time, all-star at 5 different positions. Just a tremendous player, but he made some mistakes. And he's a disgraced ball player, but he's my disgraced ball player. And I saw him in Vegas when we went to Vegas. Last time we went to Vegas, we saw him there at a restaurant, and I feel bad for he's in his 80s now, and he looks like hell, and
what? He should be in the Hall of Fame, man.
Yeah,
it's one of those,
but he broke the cardinal sin. Listen, I am, the Hall of Fame is one of my biggest debates that I love having with baseball guys, because there are so many guys in the Hall of Fame that don't belong in the Hall of Fame. And then you have guys in there who are murderers and racists and Klansmen and drug dealers who are in the Hall of Fame. But since they didn't defile the sport by betting on it, they're still in it. But but outside of that, Pete Rose, and he wasn't a guy that played on any of the teams that I liked. I just like watching Pete Rose play. But the
Well,
one that really kind of hurt me was a couple of years ago when Seaver died.
your boy Tom Seaver, yeah.
Tom Seaver died, and I remember it's funny, he died. I want to say it was 2 years ago, and I was sitting right where I'm at here, and the news came that he had died, and I got so sad
Yeah.
because these are your idols. That's the worst part about getting old is not that you're dying. The worst part is that the people that you admired growing up are start to die, and it's only in that matter of time before you go. And watching him go, I mean, it's a guy who still looked young, but the dementia got him, and it was all she wrote, But Seaver, those are class acts. Modern ball players, look, I like modern ball players too, but modern baseball has changed so much that it's hard for an older guy to embrace.
Well, they don't play small ball no more.
They don't.
You'll never have a guy like Ricky Henderson who steals 100 bases a year.
Oh, well, you might now, because now they're trying to entice more stealing, but you're never going to have a leadoff hitter like Ricky. You're not going to have some of the personalities you had back then. Listen, you have now, there are a couple of guys now who are within 300 wins. You're never going to see 300 wins again because pitchers don't go more than 5 or 6 innings. Yeah. It's baseball. It's going to change. And I don't think it's going to change for the good, but it's going to change for the worse. But listen, we're fans. We're not going to stop watching baseball, and we're going to root for our teams, and we're going to root for and we're going to keep rooting for them, and hopefully they'll keep us going. I mean, listen, there are guys in their 90s who still watch baseball. I mean, those are the boys of spring. Those are the boys of summer who look forward to baseball on the radio and day games and stuff that you don't see that much of anymore. Unless you live in New York or Chicago or Boston or Cincinnati, where they still play day games,
For me, like as a kid, I like old Yankee Stadium had an aura to it. And
I thought it was a smell.
Oh, a definite smell. Too.
Okay, all right.
Like you knew you were in old Yankee Stadium. And I remember I used to beg my dad when Griffey came to town. Griffey was my guy. I feel like if he never got hurt, he would have been the greatest player of all time.
There's no doubt that and I think you look at a guy like Griffey, Griffey played, it was harder than it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a dissolution of talent as they've expanded rosters and they've expanded teams. The talent level is not the same. Griffey was a fantastic player. Griffey, one of my Hall of Fame issues is that how did Griffey not get elected unanimously to the Hall of Fame?
I need to find out who those 3 guys are.
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to be the same reason that listen, man. Now you got me on a tangent. In 1936, 5 guys going to the Hall of Fame. All right, 5 guys going to the Hall of Fame. Within those 5 guys, you have Ty Cobb, you have Babe Ruth, you have Nap Lajoie, you have all these guys who are Honus Wagner. 5 guys. Do you know that Babe Ruth was not on everybody's ballot? How is that possible? It's 1936, and Babe Ruth doesn't get a unanimous vote. Move forward to Griffey retiring. Not only did Griffey was a spectacular player in Seattle, and was injured in time in Cincinnati, not the same player, but he brought kids back to baseball with that Nintendo Griffey game. He's 50 years old or 47 years old. They still call him the kid. Yeah. He's still, and yet we have to wait till Mariano Rivera is the first unanimous player. Think of all the great players that came before, not saying Mariano is not worthy, because he was, but all the great players who were not first-time ballot guys, who had to wait second and third. And I'm not even going to talk about the Negro leagues and the Spanish players who didn't make it. Let's just talk about the guys the guys that people know. The guys that when you think of baseball, you think of the old black and white photos of the guys hitting the ball and running around those guys not unanimous. That's crazy. Cy Young, the trophy is called the Cy Young Award, and he wasn't a first ballot Hall of Fame.
I got 5 guys for you who should have got 100% of the vote, didn't get 100% of the vote.
Right. Go ahead, hit me.
Tony Gwynn.
Okay. Can't argue with Tony Gwynn.
Nolan Ryan.
You can argue with Nolan that while his career strikeouts and stat, his ERA and his wins and losses weren't great. He had a lot of, but he played on some really bad teams. And I remember he was a Met for many years. He had really bad control issues, but he had 6 no-hitters. And he struck out I don't know how many thousands people, but he could have been a first time. He should have been a unanimous Hall of Famer. I'll go with you on that.
So we got Ryan. We also have who was my guy back in the at least Randy towards the end of his career, Randy wasn't the guy towards the end of his career.
But towards the end of his career, he won his World Series. That's what he wanted. He wanted his World Series. Him and Schilling got one. But Randy Johnson how Randy Johnson did not make a unanimous decision is incredible. I agree with you there.
How about this? Ricky Henderson should have said 100%.
Ricky Henderson is the greatest leadoff hitter since Ty Cobb.
Yeah. And he didn't get 100% because the problem with baseball is that the media decides, and if they have a gripe against you, they don't vote.
Sports writers are what's wrong with sports.
Yeah.
Do you know that? All right, and you're a Yankees fan. Ted Williams was not a unanimous choice. Do you know why Ted Williams was not a unanimous choice? Because the New York sports writer didn't put on his ballot. Do you know why Joe DiMaggio was not a unanimous choice? Because the Boston sports writer wouldn't put him on his ballot. It's that kind of stupidity. We had a sports writer here who tried to sell his Hall of Fame vote a couple of years ago, and I think he ended up losing it, and he got in all kind of trouble. They don't take it seriously. These guys, if you're not good with the media, you don't. Jim Rice was a hell of an outfielder for the Boston Red Sox. But Jim Rice didn't talk to the media after games, so Jim Rice had to wait till the end of it, almost the end of his 10 years, to get into the Hall.
I got a guy for you. He's not the Hall of Fame, and he's not even on the ballot anymore. Kenny Lofton.
The problem with Kenny Lofton is the same problem that Keith Hernandez is not in the Hall of Fame, because now center fielders have become power hitters, and Kenny was not a power hitter. Keith Hernandez belongs in the Hall of Fame, as does Don Mattingly. Yes. But the problem is that Keith Hernandez played on a corner. Corner positions are expected to be power hitters. But what they don't take into consideration is that Keith Hernandez has 11 gold gloves. 11. That's 11 gold gloves at first base. And he hit like 280 but he was almost a 300 hitter for his career. But Lofton, his issue is power. It's not that he wasn't a great defensive outfielder, and it was because he stole bases, and he was a leadoff hitter. I thought Kenny Lofton was great, but I don't know. I'm not going to go 100% on the Kenny Lofton one. Look, Dick Allen is one of my favorite players of all time. Dick Allen did not make the Hall of Fame while he was alive.
I got one for you. Would you take Jim Edmonds or Kenny Lofton?
Well, here's the problem. Jim Edmonds, early Jim Edmonds, yes, but not late Jim Edmonds. Late Jim Edmonds was always injured, but late Jim Edmonds was a power hitter, where early Jim Edmonds was not. I would take, if I'm building my team, I take Kenny Lofton, because I want Kenny Lofton to get on base, steal bases, score runs.
Edmonds is in the Hall of Fame.
I understand that. There are a lot of guys who don't belong in the Hall of Fame. Listen, I'm going to give you sports trivia, a little sports trivia. It just shows you how baseball has changed. So back in the 70s, back until probably the 80s, maybe in the 90s, a lot of baseball teams were designed around where they played.
Mm-hmm.
So being an American League guy, you might not have watched a lot of National League baseball, but I watched a lot of National League baseball. So you had two guys on the St. Louis Cardinals won a world championship with a lineup that they had their third hitter. When you think of your third hitter, you're thinking a guy who hits close to 300 and a guy who can drive in 100 runs and a guy who's going to hit 25 or 30 home runs. The Cardinals' third hitter had 100 RBIs one year, but he only hit 5 home runs. He hit less than 5 home runs because the two guys who batted in front of him were always on base, Willie McGee and Vince Coleman. Wow. So now you're gonna look at it and go, wow, what am I trying to get to? That sometimes stats are overplayed. I got 100 RBIs. Yeah, but you had two guys who had a 900 on base percentage. Of course, you're gonna get it. If you're hitting 270, you're always gonna get a guy in from these two guys are always on base.
Exactly.
Baseball is super frustrating, bro. Super, super frustrating.
I got noticed that for you. So and I just found this one out. Gary Sheffield never struck out 100 times.
I believe that. Gary Sheffield played here. Gary Sheffield played here. And I had Gary Sheffield on my fantasy team in his worst season ever, which was the year he won his first World Series here with the Marlins. Gary Sheffield, but here's the problem with Gary Sheffield. He's not media friendly
at all.
You have to be friendly with the media.
Yep.
You have to be. If you're not media friendly, you don't get in, buddy. That's how baseball is like that. Football seems to be a little better, and the NBA Hall of Fame. I can't even tell you what.
Everybody gets in,
but the Baseball Hall of Fame is so full of guys who don't belong in there.
Yeah.
Because they make special dispensations for some guys and some for not. Lou Gehrig gets in the Hall of Fame. He didn't wait the 5 years. Clemente doesn't wait the 5 years to get into the Hall of Fame. They make and not Clemente wasn't a great player. I'm not to get all our Puerto Rican friends all in a huff. But you can't pick and choose when you're going to bend the rules. Exactly. and that's what bothers me about baseball. I'm so over the Hall of Fame and so over the writers of baseball. It's ridiculous. They're what's wrong with this game.
Well, and the problem too is that but it's if you notice, it's changing a little bit because they're starting to get rid of these guys who bat 220 and hit 40 home runs. They're like, no, like we want
Rob Deere, like a guy like Rob Deere. Yeah. All right, look, I'm going to give you an example. One of my close friends is a guy named Dan Tiant. His father is Louis Tiant. If you go when we're done here and you have some time on the internet, I want you to pull up Baseball Reference. Open up 2 windows on your browser, and I want you to open up Louis Tiant stats. Go all the way down to his career stats, and I want you to go to Catfish Hunter stats and go all the way down. They are identical stats, yet Catfish Hunter is in the Hall of Fame, and Louis Tiant is still waiting. Was it because Louis Tiant was a darker shade of Cuban? I don't know. Is it because Catfish Hunter won some World Series with the Yankees? Maybe. I don't know. But you're going to tell me that there's not bias? Of course there's bias. If the stats, if you're supposed to do the Hall of Fame based on stats, you have 2 players with identical stats, yet they're not in the Hall of Fame. Exactly. Yeah, one is and one's not. It's ridiculous. And I have a whole thing on this. I have a whole show on Hall of Fame shit, man. Don't go there with me, bro. There are guys who Kurt Flood belongs in the Hall of Fame, not because his great numbers, but because how he gave up his career for free agency. Exactly. The Jeff Kent belongs in the Hall of Fame. Jeff Kent's not in the Hall of Fame. You know why he's not in the Hall of Fame? Because he doesn't talk to the media. He was an asshole and he got into a fight with Barry Bonds. But if you look at Ryan Sandberg's numbers and Roberto Alomar's numbers, Jeff Kent had superior numbers. Tommy John. Not only does Tommy John have 280 some odd wins as a left-hander, they named the surgery after him, and he's still not in the Hall of Fame.
It's a lot. And the thing too is, if you're not getting, I think it's like 60% of the vote, they take you off.
You have to make a certain percentage. You have 10 years, and then 75% of the vote to get in. Yeah. And I think if you don't make a certain percentage in the first couple of years, I think you're off the ballot. I'm not quite sure how whatever stupid rules they're using, but it's ridiculous. They ought to have players vote for the Hall of Fame. I think even at least the players are less biased. If I didn't like a guy, I didn't like a guy, but I could tell you he was talented or not.
Well, think about this. Like perfect example, Manny Ramirez. The end of his career, everybody, Manny's a troublemaker. But Manny can hit a fucking. Manny made plays that I was like, "There's no fucking way."
Why is David Ortiz in the Hall of Fame and not Manny Ramirez?
Exactly. Like,
why is Albert Bell not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, because Albert Bell
corked the bat.
Yeah,
and he got caught corking a bat.
Not even the corking the bat. It was his attitude, 150% attitude.
All right, I don't know how much talk you want to do, but I'm gonna give you a perfect example. My kid's a baseball guy, so my kid's a troll. He's a huge troll. So one day he posts on Facebook, Chipper Jones is the greatest switch hitter ever, period. End of story. So I see it and I lose my mind. So I'm write this whole, I go get Rose's stats and I put all his stats, blah, 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 blah. And then I see him later, he's laughing. He goes, "You let me troll you like that?" I go, yeah, you made a good point. Chipper Jones is a great player. He's not the best. He goes, "Well, let's, how do we solve this?" I said, "Okay, let me call my dad." So I called my dad. I said, "Listen, your grandson and me, your son and your grandson are having an argument, and we need you to clarify this." He goes, "Okay." I said, he says that Chipper Jones is the greatest switch hitter of all time, and I said Pete Rose is the greatest switch hitter of all time. And he goes, "You're both wrong. Mickey Mantle was the best switch hitter of all time." So,
Oh,
so and then he says, and he says, and if you don't, and if you don't want to say Mickey Mantle because you didn't see him play, Eddie Murray was a better switch hitter. So
wow.
think about that. So that's just generational baseball. I
Yeah.
didn't, he never saw Rose play. I did. I saw Chipper Jones play. I didn't see Mantle play. My son didn't see Rose or Mantle play. So I mean, and as much as it frustrates me, innocent, that's baseball.
Yeah.
And baseball has been very, very bad to me.
Well, you know what? It's been bad to you since '86. I'll say that.
It's been bad to me since '86. '88 hurt a lot. '88 was really tough.
Oh.
'88, we had a better team than the Dodgers and lost. The Yankees, we had no chance to beat the Yankees that year. They were very good. We should have beaten the Royals, but we didn't. And this year, we're not looking good this year either. So
I could probably name that whole 2000 Met team. You had Benny Agbayani.
Mierda. Awful.
You had Ricky Henderson.
Retired. He was already playing cards in the dugout.
Yeah. What's his name? What's the Puerto Rican kid? What was his name? It was like Timo something.
Tino Martinez. Timo Perez.
Timo Perez was on that team.
Yeah. They had a very bad team, and yet they still made it to the World Series.
Exactly. Yeah, you had
you know that he was playing cards in the dugout, right?
Yeah,
Ricky Henderson was playing tunk. He was playing tunk in the dugout with Carlos Delgado or something. Yeah. It was bad times, bro. Why, bro? You don't do this to your guests. You don't bring them on and rag them out like
that. Listen, man. And then throughout New York City, the only thing you heard was "Who Let the Dogs Out." Every fight.
Oh, that was awful. Awful.
That's all you ever heard.
And Piazza lets Clemens throw a bat at him. Piazza should have beat Clemens' ass. Well, he should have tried. Should have tried. Clemens would have probably taken it.
At least tried.
Yeah,
have some balls.
That was awful.
And honestly, Piazza, he's not as loved. He's for Met fans, he's not as loved as he should be, because just because of the fact that he was a bitch.
Yeah, they say that a little bit about him.
They
said, but look while he was hitting, we loved him.
Yeah,
but that he lost a lot of points with the Mets with that Clemens thing. That left a bad taste in a lot of Mets fans. Wow. Yeah.
Oh man, I got a name for you, John Rocker.
Oh, they hated him in New York. Oh my God, he talked so much shit. He's on the subway, said everybody was crackheads, and it was nothing but illegal aliens and shit. John Rocker, but John Rocker could pitch, and he shut us down.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do, bro? You're bringing up, bro. You're giving me PTSD, dog. Come on, let's move on.
Well, it's what's the one thing I always wondered about, as far as athletes and celebrities. I always wondered what cigars they smoked, and I always wondered if they even go down the route of smoking boutique cigars.
Well, I'll tell you, we had Kenny. Oh my God, the point guard for the Nets, Kenny Anderson. Kenny Anderson came to our warehouse one day to smoke cigars. Wow. Kenny Anderson, yeah, Kenny Anderson. I have a picture somewhere where Tim Hardaway he was at the show in Vegas. He came by the booth. Wow. So I mean, we've got some guys who smoke our stuff. But look, I think celebrities. I think celebrities, just due to their earnings and going to probably fancier places, are probably turned on to higher price brands. Not might not be the connoisseurs that maybe the rest of us are. Well,
it's something funny. So this is the second year in a row that Drew Estate was the cigar of the finals of the NBA finals. Well, not second year in a row, but they were a cigar. They were the cigar that was handed out when LeBron won.
Yeah, that's the story behind that is manufacturers all try to sneak a box into the thing. We all try to do it. We've all tried to do it. There's either because somebody there always has a hook. Yeah. But these guys do you really want your cigar in a locker room getting full of champagne and wet, and the guys are crunching on them and put ashing them out and yeah, of course, because you want people to see your band and stuff like that. But it's just a matter of luck. Yeah, Drew Estate. I saw one year Plasencia had their cigar during the Astros World Series. I forgot which was the one that when LeBron won in Cleveland, they had it wasn't Drew Estate, it was another brand. Listen, it's just usually the guys who work behind the scenes had that taken care of. The guy who the trainers and shit, they got, hey, you got the cigars, yeah, man, we got the cigars, and they want to be special, smoke cohibas, man, you go smoke that shit somewhere else. Go.
Well, and the crazy thing was, I remember when the Braves won, they all had Padrones, but American Padrones.
Well, Padrones are ours. You mean American cohibas or Dominican cohibas or Padrones? No, Padrones are all made here. Yeah, there's no Cuban Padron.
Okay, yeah. So so you see the manager of the Braves with his box of Padrones with one in his mouth, like, yeah.
Listen, man, it's a great cigar. It's a great cigar. I have no problem. I prefer them to smoke anything Nicaraguan or Dominican or something Cuban in the locker room.
Well, that, and it's an amazing way, but the other issue is just the fact that, like, especially in movies, they always have to take the band off.
Well, because they don't want to pay. They don't want to pay for the advertising. Listen, cigars. Joe Burrow did more. Joe Burrow did more for cigar smokers after that LSU game than any of these professional champions have in the last couple of years. That picture of him smoking after LSU wins that game. That shit was fantastic. That was fantastic. I don't even know what brand he was smoking, but it was fantastic for the industry.
He likes tobaccos.
Oh, okay. He likes Indian tobaccos. Listen, they sell.
He loves Drew Estate tobaccos, and whenever they win, he's always handing out those damn tobaccos.
And like I told you at the beginning, bro, it takes all kinds. As long as they're smoking, I don't care what they're smoking.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they're smoking. Anything that brings brings cigar smoking into the mainstream and away from that dirty box that they want to put us in, I'm all for it.
Because Karl Malone has a brand, but his brand is doing okay. But then you have people like Ray Lewis who went to Rocky and just put his face on it.
Well, Sheffield did a cigar with Rocky. Ed Reed is coming out with a cigar.
Well, apparently Ed Reed is a connoisseur.
Ed Reed is a cigar smoker. And I saw Ed Reed at our shop. Ed Reed went to our shop. Ed Reed is a cigar smoker. And he went to make a cigar Plasencia, who's one of the world's greatest growers of tobacco. I mean, this guy's not fucking around. That's you want that. That's why I prefer that. Guys who are smokers who are getting behind their own product, like Guy is doing.
So Joe Hayden came out with a cigar.
Joe Hayden.
Play for the Steelers.
Right, the
quarterback, yeah. So he came out with a cigar. Matty Rock gets him an interview on his podcast with him and Sanj. Joe Hayden doesn't know who makes the cigar, where it's blended. He goes, "No, my guy just took care of it. I just put the money up for it." And I go, "Dude, you can't go on a podcast."
Somebody should have prepared him for that. Somebody should have, but that's on whoever Joe's guy is. Joe should have told him, "Hey, I'm going to do a cigar podcast. Hold on, bro. Let me slow down. Let me go on with you," or something like that.
And he was selling his cigar for like $21 a piece.
Well, you got to royalties, baby. You got to pay the manufacturer. He's got to get his cut. Everybody's got to get their money.
You know what? So I was talking to Louis Cuevas.
Great guy.
Let me tell you, I love Louis. He was on my podcast last 2 weeks ago. He was on for 3 hours just talking. And he said the best thing that he has is the fact that he has a factory, and it cuts down on the consumer costs.
Well, for his particular line, for the stuff he does, yes.
So he was saying, it really helps him out a lot because of the fact that he has his own factory. He can make cigars a lot cheaper than some people who come out with brand new lines, and they're just coming out. And when they come out with the cigar, they come out with cigars $15, $16. So this way they can make some kind of profit on the cigar.
Well, the thing is, just so you, and I'm sure you realize this living in New York City, when a company comes out with a cigar and they list MSRP, it's usually MSRP in Florida, where all you're doing is paying, you pay sales tax on that. A $10 cigar in Miami does not cost $10 in New York City, does not cost $10 in Los Angeles or in Boston. I mean, some of those heavy tax states, they really bang you up, The cigar friendly states are Florida, Pennsylvania, Texas, really good states to sell your product in,
Well, in New York City, like if I'm going to a lounge in New York City, I make sure I get the cheapest cigar possible because it's gonna like a $10 cigar in New York City is $17.
Well, I like I told you, like I said earlier, before we started, I went to New York City last year. So one of the nights I was there, uh, Juan Cancel set up for me to go to Club Macanudo.
Okay.
So I go to Club Macanudo, and when I walk in, and I got the whole VIP. It was really kind of embarrassing because I just wanted to go and have a cigar. So I sit down, and they bring me the cigar menu. I am if they don't have Espinosa, I will smoke. I always defer to Padron. That's the next cigar I have.
Okay.
So I know what a Padron number 9 cost here.
Yep.
So when I looked at that menu, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, I'll have the Padron number 9, and I'll have an old fashioned, and blah blah blah. And and at the end of the night, the guy comped me for, I think I might have paid for the drink. He comped me for the cigar and the dessert I had, and then I left a nice tip for the waitress. But I was like, man, New York City is no fucking joke. I spent more money on Ubers than I did eating in New York City, and I ate well in New York City.
Like Ubers is insane. Like
$80 from the Lower East Side to Flushing. $80.
You're better off taking a yellow cab.
A yellow cab.
Yeah.
Man, the guy said you should take the train. My luck, I end up in Schenectady. I take the train. I end up in like Naugatuck or some shit like that. I don't know how to take the train in New York, man. But I that's what it was. The most expensive part was the Uber rides and finding a place to smoke a cigar. Finding a place to smoke a cigar is hard, brother. I was gonna go to Cigar Inn, but it's too far. I stayed in the Lower East Side, which in retrospect, I should have probably stayed in Manhattan in Midtown, but I stayed
in New York City. They have like down in Lower East Side, they have the Soho cigar bar.
Yeah, but the Lower East Side is not really it's not my cup of tea. Look, it's not because it wasn't, I didn't enjoy work. The hotel was great. Look, I was right around the corner from Cat's Deli. I mean, the view in the morning was fantastic. The problem is they close the streets on Thursday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights. It's loud as shit. It's 3 a.m. People are still outside partying. I was smoking a cigar outside. A guy was looking at me all weird, but he was smoking a Rastafarian joint. He had a joint about the size of my baby's arm, and they frown upon it. I was thinking maybe I go to Cigar Inn or I go to Sanj's, but I don't know the area, so I just ended up doing Club Macanudo.
Oh, next time you come to New York,
I'll let you know. Yeah, it'll be a couple of years because I ain't going this year. The Mets pissed me off. I'm not going this year.
Well, the one good thing is I'm coming down to Miami for a group meet in Miami. So we're supposed to be having dinner at Lewis's house.
Okay.
So actually, well, hopefully I can text you and be like, hey,
if you let me know when you're in Miami, let me know, and if you're not tied up with Cuevas, we'll grab a cigar.
Oh, dude, I would love that. Hey, well, if you can, I'll be like, hey, Lewis, do you mind if Hector comes by?
Lewis might even join us. Lewis is really good friends with Jack Tarano, who works with me. So
yeah, he was saying that. Yeah,
he's really good friends with Jack.
Yeah, Lewis is amazing people.
He's a good people. He's really good people, and the kid's a good kid too.
Yeah. Well, we're about 2 hours in, so I'll end it here.
All right, brother. Anytime you need me, anytime you want me on, bro, you got me.
Oh, man, listen, man, I appreciate that, man. Listen, this is not gonna be the last time you hear from me because I got your numbers, so I'll keep in touch through text.
All right, no problem, man.
Yeah, let me just